Well, joining me now from the United Kingdom to look deeper into the World Patient Safety Day is a general medicine practitioner, Dr. Esien Ukorebi. Thank you so much for joining us on The World. Now, this is a pretty interesting day, especially when you think of how you have a headache and then what you want to go get is paracetamol. It's something we do, all the time. And of course, medical practitioners like yourself have warned against the indiscriminate use of medications like this. But first, help us better understand the significance of today and how important it is to healthcare.
Thank you very much for having me today. As you rightly said, the World Health Organization have set today aside as the World Patient Safety Day for 2022. And they've tagged it medication safety. And in fact, they've used the slogan, medication without harm, because just as medication can help people, it can also cause harm to them if not taken properly or if errors are encountered during the use of this medication. And the main aim of this campaign by WHO is to cut down on the unsafe medication practices as well as medication errors that can lead to patients coming to harm. And they've set out four objectives to help with this. And one of them is to raise a global awareness of the high rate, the high burden of unsafe medication practices. For example, self-medication, like you rightly said, where people can go over the counter and purchase medications for themselves and use to treat themselves for different kinds of illnesses without actually speaking to a healthcare professional. One of the objectives is also to engage with key stakeholders like healthcare professionals, like pharmaceutical companies, in order to prevent medication errors. I think the third objective is to empower families and patients as well. And I think this is quite important, especially for us as individuals, to empower families and the patients to be actively involved in safe use of medication. And this includes ensuring that as a patient, as an individual, if you have to take any medication at any point in time, either prescribed by yourself or purchased over the counter, it is important to understand, well, what kind of medication it is, how long you're meant to take the medication, what side effects are you going to expect, and the duration as well of the medication that you'll be taking. So it's important for patients to be actively involved each time they have any medication to take. And finally, of course, the WHO has set out, measures to scale up their agenda, which is to implement a global patient safety where there is medication without harm.
Very interesting points, of course, you've raised about the significance of today. But if you take a look at Africa, for instance, particularly Nigeria, where we have our market saturated with drugs of various kinds, would you say a country like Nigeria, or if you take into consideration some African countries, particularly Nigeria, has a weak medication system? Well, the reason I'm asking this is so we can understand the contributing factors to unsafe medication practice.
We've said it over and over again that the health system in Nigeria, as well as, of course, the medication system, can be better. It is far below standard in Nigeria. And, just to bring us back to focus, the focus of the day being medication safety. And of course, in this discussion, talking about, things like self-medication. In Nigeria, there is a high rate of self-medication and also a very low rate of medication regulation in Nigeria. And by that, I mean anyone can walk up into the pharmacy and get antibiotics. Anyone can walk into the pharmacy and get medications, and they don't need official prescriptions for it. People can have prescriptions scribbled on papers, and they could use that to purchase medications from pharmacies. And I think these are the things that the World Health Organization is trying to crack down on, because these are easy ways in which people can practice unsafe medication and patients can come to harm. And it can range from simple things like taking paracetamol over the counter for a simple headache to even more serious things where you find people, going to the pharmacy on regular occasions to take medications on long term, for their illnesses without actually, speaking to a healthcare professional. And that's what self-medication is. And the problem with self-medication is that, it is the patients themselves that get to suffer from self-medication in the long term, because most patients that self-medicate, one, would not be aware of the duration of the medication or how long they are meant to take this medication. Because they've done it over time, they have large stocks of medications at home, and sometimes these medications are expired as well, but they carry on taking them. And this is the awareness we are trying to create, that patients must understand that medications have expiry, medication should be taken for a certain duration, and this is why you need to speak to healthcare professionals. And I'll use antibiotics as another example. In Nigeria, people can get antibiotics over the counter easily. And we've seen the rise in antibiotic resistance, even in Nigeria, where you take antibiotics, whether it has been prescribed or not, and whether the indication for the antibiotics is there or not. People purchase these antibiotics, use it to self-medicate, and thereby encouraging resistance. So the body develops resistance to these antibiotics. And when they become genuinely ill with a bacterial infection, these antibiotics can no longer work for them. And that's one of the dangers of self-medication. Of course, we can also go on to talk about incorrect dosage, either too low a dose or too much a dose. And of course, people who self-medicate, because they are not medically trained, they don't know the exact dose for the exact problem. The fact that you were prescribed a particular dose for one problem does not mean that that's the same dose that would be used to treat other problems. So people end up taking too little drugs and or too much, which can be harmful. These are many more is what WHO is trying to crack down on.
I was going to, of course, I would have loved that we take this conversation further, talking about how we treated this particular topic during the COVID-19 pandemic, as our people just went ahead to get herbs and other things just to treat themselves or prevent themselves from getting the virus. But I'm afraid we might have to leave the conversation here. General medicine practitioner, Dr. Esien Ukorebi, thank you so much for joining us on The World Now at this time.
Thank you very much.